Hey guys, Arizona here. I'm sure you wouldn't have forgotten me. uh, so here we are with lesson 2 in the mini course, and it is all about manipulation. I'm going to talk you as quick as I can through this really sweet little cartoon that I made actually. I don't know if you remember, if I've said it already. I am a domestic abuse support worker. I work with people of all genders, kind of different sexualities, stuff like that. And I just keep seeing these patterns. People, when they come to the service I work for, when they tell me about the kind of abuse that they're going through, and just kind of the behaviors of the kind of person who's doing that to them. And then sometimes also some perpetrators try to access our service as well, posing as victims, sometimes genuinely believing they are the victim. And so I get a really kind of good insight on both sides of the coin there, kind of the victim's perspective, survivor's perspective of that situation, and then also sometimes the perpetrator's perspective of that situation. And as I said, I have just seen, a number of things pop up time and time again. And so I ended up making this cartoon about it, just as a cool kind of way to put that information across. It's really important to me that I educate people about this. So many people that come to the service I work for say, God, I didn't realize it was abuse until way after the fact. And so many people could avoid such a massive amount of trauma and, really scary situations and stuff. And, if they maybe had this information. So that's what this week is all about. I'm just going to share this cool little cartoon. In the actual course, the kind of mini course, not the mini course, sorry, the full course, we have a really awesome scenario, actually, a scenario based on true life that we walk through together, and kind of taking some of the stuff from here that will actually be really amazing for you to put into practice when we do that scenario in the real course, the full course. You've got this little piece of information here, and then when we get to the real course, the full course, we can go through that scenario together and see if you can pick up on the manipulation as it's happening, as it's unfolding. Pretty cool stuff. And obviously we got some pretty cool physical techniques as well in lesson 2, in all the lessons, but in lesson 2, again, using that home environment, making our own training equipment, using the home environment, the place where self-defense often happens. Okay, I'll just get on with it. Let's get started. Okay, so I'll try and get through this as quickly as possible. Okay, I'm going to try and keep myself on a wee time limit, because I could just honestly talk forever about this stuff. Okay, so signs of a possible perpetrator. A lack of empathy, sometimes in the small ways, okay? So it doesn't have to be big, massive things like, oh, they killed a cat and they didn't show any remorse, okay? By that point, you're already way deep in, okay? This is an early red flag. Sometimes people can display a lack of empathy in the small ways. Perhaps you pass a homeless person in the street and they just really don't care about them, and they maybe say something hurtful, something like that. Maybe it could be the way they treat animals, could be just a general disregard for the way their actions impact other people. And again, it can be on a scale, sometimes small, sometimes really big. This is something I say all the time. What somebody does small, they often do big. So if you are questioning yourself inside a relationship or any kind of dynamic, thinking, is there something wrong here? Kind of what's really going on here? It could be good to kind of take a look at their relationship with empathy, on a scale. Small scenarios, big scenarios. What someone does small, they often do big. So just because it's only happening in a small kind of manageable thing right now, it doesn't mean that can't transfer over into something big later on, So lack of empathy, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in big ways. Number 1 red flag from working in domestic abuse. Number 2, oh my God, I see this one all the time, literally all the time, and it is so, it's mind-boggling. It's crazy making for my service users who are on the receiving end of this kind of abusive behavior. The perpetrator never acknowledge or rarely acknowledges wrongdoing. In this example here, it wasn't me. I never signed for anything. You know I wouldn't. But look, your signature is right here. Well, somebody must have faked it, because I literally hear about this all the time in my work. You know, people can show clear evidence to the perpetrator, abuser, abusive friend, whoever it is, abusive uncle, abusive coach, no matter who it is. There can be hard evidence there, and that person will still deny responsibility, deny acknowledging their part in that. So if that is something that's going on in a small way or a big way, just take that as a red flag, okay? And bear in mind, one of these things on their own doesn't correlate to being an abuser, but it's certainly a red flag. But if there are multiple things going on here from this wee cartoon, then I think you've probably got a perpetrator on your hands, to be honest. And, you know, I'm saying that so that you've got a bit of validation there. You know, if you're kind of questioning yourself, is this person right? Is this person wrong? And there's multiple red flags from this cartoon going on, maybe other ones that are not including the cartoon. I think that there's a high chance you are dealing with a perpetrator. So watch yourself, okay? Yeah. Okay, number 3, controlling the small ways. I had a perpetrator who came to our service. Sometimes we have perpetrators who try to pretend to be victims and access the service to gain information about their partners, or, you know, about how the system works and stuff. And then sometimes perpetrators come to our service genuinely believing they are the victim. I know, it's surprising. I never knew that until I started working in domestic abuse. Anyway, yeah, so we have controlling in the small ways initially. What someone does small, they do big, okay? I had this perpetrator who really, you know, he caught me. He really sucked me in with his lies and stuff like that. You know, some of these perpetrators are like skilled manipulators, skilled liars, you know. But the thing was, my gut instinct did go off, you know. So I kind of, yeah, it was there, you know. And after some time, I was like, okay, no, I see the truth here, you know, goodbye sort of thing. But yeah, so I've taken this red flag here from him specifically. This is one of the things that kind of set off my gut instinct and eventually led to me working out that he was actually a liar and he was not telling the truth. So he would say things like, you know, he was very directive. He would say, oh, go make yourself a coffee, or he would instruct me about how to help him in a situation. And often people who are abusive, controlling, will demonstrate their kind of controlling behaviors. You know, it can be easy to lie about a story, to say this about someone, to say that, you know, to be polite, you know, do charitable things. You know, these are all things that he did. But people give away little clues, you know, in their unguarded speech. And one of those clues for me was this idea of him being controlling in the small ways. You know, he was very, very controlling in the small ways. And that was definitely a red flag for me. And as I said, eventually worked out that he was a perpetrator. Okay, so another one, jealous of your positive skills and qualities. Yeah, somebody just hates that you, God, even just speaking about this right now, oh, yeah. We'll get into that right now, but yeah, jealous of your positive skills and qualities, that could drive a person nuts, a person who is abusive, and it can become a real target for them. You know, they hate the thing that makes you positive, that makes you a light in the world, and they really want to take that away from you. So often they will specifically target that thing that you love, or that you're really good at, or that you enjoy, that you find some kind of sanctuary in, and they will just completely twist that and turn that into a really kind of bad thing. You know, like, I have a friend, she was really into fitness, and her old abusive partner knew how much she loved fitness, and she was so good at being fit and working out and all that motivation and stuff. And so he just, you know, gave her all this horrible body image stuff. He was just like, oh, you know, you look like a man, blah, 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 blah. You know, so, and all an attempt to bring her down, you know, so that she could never leave, because many people who are abusive are either, you know, so afraid of abandonment, that's why they control so hard, or perhaps some other relationship dynamic, maybe previous trauma, maybe none of that at all. There are many reasons. But yeah, so Jealous of your positive skills and qualities, trying to bring you down in those areas. Definite red flag. Okay, this is another one here taken from that perpetrator I was speaking about earlier on. Another one of the clues from the controlling the small ways part. They use threatening, demeaning language, not necessarily directed to you, towards you. You know, so this guy was so polite, so nice, you know, always trying to be so kind to me and stuff, you know, really just trying to butter me up. Bit of a red flag. But as I said, in his unguarded speech, you know, when he was just kind of like talking from his heart or whatever in the moment, not consciously choosing what he was going to say, sometimes these little clues would slip out in his speech. And he had really aggressive language, you know, really sometimes that language just slipped right out. And he would say some pretty worrying things, you know. So, you know, if a person has no problem saying some pretty kind of violent things or maybe making some pretty crazy statements and stuff, again, I'm not saying that makes him a perpetrator. There's sometimes just eccentric people out there, but it, you know, kind of as part of a bigger picture, a bigger puzzle, that sort of thing, this could definitely be a sign that you're dealing with a possible perpetrator. Okay, and so this one here, what do you mean you want to go out by yourself? I thought you loved me. So this one's actually about a lack of boundaries, or you're not allowed to have boundaries, privacy, but also what's featured in this square is a bit guilt tripping. So I suppose it's kind of covering both. Yeah, so you not being able to have a private life, you know, that can be in a familial context, it can be in a relationship, it could be a friendship, all that kind of stuff. If somebody needs to know what's going on with your personal things, you know, they take it personally when they are excluded from your private life. Everyone's entitled to a private life, yeah, even inside a relationship, we are our own individual people. If someone has a very, you know, kind of guilt trippy emotional response to that, tries to make you feel bad for that thing that is your human right, should be a wee warning sign for you. Okay, it's healthy to spend time apart, it's healthy to have independent lives, and obviously, you know, relationships are about partnerships, even multiple people, multi-partnerships, all that kind of stuff. You know, and working together, collaborating, that's so good, love that, but not at the expense of you being a whole person yourself, you know. Okay, oh, another massive red flag for a potentially toxic relationship. It's intense from day one. I hear this all the time, like literally this cartoon is based on the things I just like face all the time in work. This is for you so that you can learn from my professional experience. Usually bad relationships start out pretty intense from day one, okay? Not always, but often. You know, texting all the time, staying up late, you know, can't get enough of each other, intense, like over the top, you know, you could say. And then eventually it goes crazy and bad, you know. So just watch out for that whole kind of intense starting thing. Again, not a definite like relationship breaker on its own, but as part of a wider picture, it's a clue for you, okay? Okay, so kind of on the not acknowledging thing, well, I can immediately see without checking the facts that this is entirely your fault. Oh, it's funny because I have just met so many people in my life who display these characteristics. Oh, God. Oh, me. Oh, me. The only thing we can do is laugh, huh? Laugh and learn. Okay, yeah, so a person who is an abuser will always blame you or may take responsibility for things that aren't really like a big deal, but for the big stuff, it's always you. Everything is always your fault. Even the things that couldn't be anyone's fault are somehow still your fault. Another one, big pressure to commit early. This is a big one, actually. This is a really big one because, again, a lot of relationship abuse, friend abuse, familial abuse, all that kind of stuff, a lot of the time that's rooted in a fear of abandonment, you know? And so people want to get you to sign up to something so that you can't leave, you know, get you locked in so that they don't have to worry anymore. But they're still going to worry anyway because it's, you know, it's a neurosis, it's an issue for them. So it doesn't matter what happens, they're still going to be like that. So if a person is putting a lot of pressure on you very early from the get-go and then not having, you know, this key part here, pushy about your hesitations, it is natural for a person to hesitate. Like, what? You want to buy a house? We've been dating for a month, you know? Any normal person would be like, yeah, fair enough. But an abuser probably going to be like, maybe directly, maybe indirectly, making you feel bad about your hesitation, for example. Oh, what, do you not love me? Oh, what, are you not in this forever? Do you not, what, am I wasting my time here? These are definitely the sorts of things you might hear in response to a rejection of that big commitment early. Yeah. Okay, isolates you. Why? Why, people, do you think that this might happen? Well, I can tell you, hopefully, this is the answer that you came up with. If you are isolated, if you're, this is how cults work. Like, I have been in a pretty culty environment myself as well. I want to say I have so much self-defense experience. I don't know if that's a good thing, but, here I am. Isolating you, when you don't have connection to the outside world, it's really, really easy to start shrinking your world down, really changing your perception of reality. You've got nobody to fact check this against. You've got nobody on the outside to be like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? Sometimes when you're inside the situation, you're so emotionally involved and stuff like that, it's hard to kind of get a clear picture of what's going on. So an abuser knows this consciously or subconsciously. It might just be repeating patterns from somebody else that did it to them. Doesn't matter how it started, it's still abusive. They want to isolate you so that they can control your world, so that you don't have support networks to reach out for, so that they can just really lock you down, tie you in, not let you escape, and then just do whatever they want to you. So if somebody, and hey, about this isolation thing, it's not like they're like, oh, like obviously cutting the other people out of your life. It can be very, very sneaky. Maybe one time somebody like accidentally said something that upset your partner, yeah, and so that becomes like a thing that they just never let go, and they just manipulate that into a reason for you not being able to talk to them anymore, instead of being a rational human being and saying, okay, it was a mistake, we'll get over it, we'll talk it out. It becomes this thing that they fixate on, and it comes up in every argument, and it just becomes this whole reason, and then maybe it grows, like, actually your whole family are awful people, you should leave them behind, all that kind of stuff. Abusers often, or pretty much always, want to isolate you, because when you're isolated, you're vulnerable, yeah. So, yeah. And here we go, yeah. Causes a scene in social situations. So it might not even be that they directly say to you, like, oh, your friends are no good, your mum hates me. They just make it super awkward when you're around with your friends, Maybe your friends come round and they're just in a mood all night, or they're just like really giving off bad energy. So they don't ever say it, but indirectly, that they're upset about it, and they won't acknowledge it when you bring it up either. Or they might come up with some crappy excuse or twist or something like that. But just see it for what it is, yeah. Okay, another one, petty, arbitrary, contradictory rules. Often in these kind of domestic abuse relationships especially, we hear so often about like, oh, they picked a fight with me because the dishes weren't stacked right, like, or the clothes weren't folded properly. These people have control issues generally. So if there are really ridiculous rules that you seem to get over penalized for not following, like really you get like a big telling off, or there's a big argument, or just a massive mood swing or something like that over these petty rules that really are inconsequential, then could be a warning sign for you. And then this one here is kind of coming off of that blame thing, yeah. They always want to tell you that you are the one that's overreacting. You've got it wrong. You are just oversensitive. You are actually the one that's got the issue. It's not me. So if you're questioning yourself, is it really me that's always overreacting? Could be a warning sign. Okay, and here we've got this kind of like swinging behaviors thing. So we got the punishment and rewards, like, you didn't do what they want, so they give you the silent treatment, but then when you do give them what they want, they shower you in gifts. It's a very manipulative, grooming behavior. Withholding and giving attention, it can even be as kind of subtle as that. So just kind of look out for that, yeah. Another one, this one's massive for the kind of cult environments, yeah. And even inside relationships as well, familial, platonic, work, everywhere, this kind of thing can happen. in any dynamic between people. So don't think just because it's not a romantic relationship that it's not a serious situation, yeah? So it's us against them, you know, like those people over there are the shit ones. We're the good guys. We just need to stick together. It's us against the world, you know, we're in this together. This whole thing about it's us against them, really, you know, we've obviously all got this thing about wanting to belong to groups. It's our inbuilt human nature, even if we personally maybe aren't super people friendly or whatever. It's still a thing that's inside of us as our kind of biological pre-programming, yeah? So this whole idea of it's us against them, it's very divisional. Like, you know, if you want to leave this thing, then you're going with the shit people, you know. So it's kind of almost like one of those barriers to you leaving. You know, if you're going to leave this, that makes you one of them, and we all know how bad they are, you know. And then maybe you start to believe that yourself. You know, like, God, I mean, maybe this is the only place that I can exist, you know. So yeah, manipulation tactics straight up, and that can show up in different forms, you know, like it can be like, oh, you know, it's not always so clear cut, yeah. Okay, you feel exhausted after you spent time around them, emotionally drained, you know, like just walking on eggshells, trying to say the right thing, holding yourself back, maybe not just being free and totally vulnerable and able to express yourself. You feel just a bit knackered after you spend some time with them. It's hard work hanging around with them. That's probably a red flag as well. Okay, here we go. Manipulation of illness. This is a really horrible one actually, and it can work both ways. So sometimes somebody, say for example, you've got mental health problems or you're just having a hard time, a person who is an abusively inclined person can definitely spin that against you. You know, people who have illnesses sometimes are vulnerable because a person can come in and take financial control, or maybe start speaking to your doctor on your behalf and saying this, that, and the next thing about you, really all aiming to make you powerless, you know, remove your power, take control of your life, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes illness can be on the other side as well. So I had a really interesting client recently, and their partner faked being very seriously ill so that the person couldn't leave them. You know, the person was so abusive to them, but the person who I was helping in the service just really felt that they couldn't leave the person, because if they left them, then who would look after them? You know, like they just couldn't face that guilt on themselves, and that's what these people kind of prey on. So just be careful of that, you know. It's not actually your responsibility to fix anyone. You can help a person, but and this is a tough call, you know. It's a really hard thing to actually live that lesson, but somebody has to take ownership over their own recovery journey, and just be really, really careful of people who kind of maybe try to get over involved in your illness, or maybe, you know, want to kind of take some control over some part of your life because they're telling you that you're too sick to do it or something, you know. Just watch out for that one. Okay, so we're getting near the end. So chameleon, okay, people who are perpetrators often are highly skilled, socially skilled individuals. I mean, seriously, really, really, really so. So these kinds of people can be whoever they need to be, you know. I'm thinking of a person I used to know who just tried to be what they thought I wanted them to be, and I believed it for a while, you know. I think we both believed it, but ultimately, like, you know, they were still themselves underneath, and that mask only lasted for a while, and they, you know, they made a good pretense, but eventually they just kind of came back to their true self, as you would expect, as they should be, you know, just being themselves. But that person who was underneath was not the person that they sold themselves as, and not the right person for my life, shall we say. Yeah, so chameleon, these people can adapt to many social situations. You know, they might be lovely to your parents, but then just a horrible, horrible person to you. You know, look amazing at the parties, you know, the star of the show, so charismatic, you know, get on with everyone, but then behind closed doors, they could have a really nasty side, you know. So just watch out for that. Okay, God, I mean, this is a bit upsetting. hearing all these horrible things, to be honest. But why are we saying all this? You know, because knowledge is power. I don't want you to ever think that every person is going to be bad and hurt you and stuff like that. We have this amazing thing inside of us, and I can verify this through my experience in domestic abuse. We all get the gut instinct signals, okay? It's not that we don't get them, it's just the difference is if we listen to them. You know, like if you look back on a difficult situation in your life, I can almost guarantee you're going to say, there were red flags. I knew, like, you know, there was a gut instinct that kicked off somewhere. I just didn't listen to it. So this is about us empowering your gut instinct, educating your gut instinct, your gut instinct doesn't need education. It's already amazing, like really amazing. But this is almost like bringing to the conscious part of your brain these possible signs of a perpetrator, so that if you're getting those gut instinct signals, you can be like, actually, no, I learned that's a legitimate thing, so I'm going to validate this right now and take it seriously, instead of telling myself that I'm just overreacting. Yeah. Okay. Omnipotent. There we go. So abusers often will harass you. You know, they're monitoring you. They want to know what you're doing. They want to always know where you are. You know, like they might not directly ask that, but like say you just went out with your friends and then suddenly you get a text from them and they're like, oh, like I just need the shopping or something, you know. Are they texting you because of that, or is it because they're just wanting to like know that you're still connected to them even when you're not there, sort of thing? And maybe that was a crappy example because it's quite common to just like, you know, be like, oh, I need this thing from the shops, and then just like text a person and say, okay, go pick that up or something. But the whole point is the omnipotence about it. It's constant, it's monitoring, it's needing to know where you are. It's hundreds of texts a day, maybe not hundreds, tens of texts a day. Even just the timing of the text, maybe you just finish your shift and then immediately there's like 5 texts in your inbox or something. Yeah, so definitely a warning sign, a possible red flag. Okay, so this is a good one. Atmosphere of threat, direct or indirect. Often we think that we're not actually in a bad situation because the person hasn't like verbalized that threat, but still their body language is giving off massive threat signals. You know, like they're, oh god, there was this awful example about this perpetrator I worked with, and he was like, he was in trouble because he threw a bottle off of a wall at his partner, and she went to the police about it. And he was like, oh, if I'd really meant to hit her, I would have thrown the bottle at her. But the point is, you know, throwing a bottle is an aggressive thing, you know, so the intent behind that action was still the same. It was to cause fear, to exert control, you know. So just because maybe they haven't actually hit you or actually threatened your life or something, but you're still getting that vibe, you know, like the nonverbal cues, you're still getting that vibe. I just want you to know that that is legit. That's real. I'm validating this right now. That is real, okay? And often these people say, no, I'm not doing that, but they fucking are. Like, you literally, like, oh god, I mean, that's gaslighting, you know, like they are giving you that clear signal that you're in danger, like encroaching on your personal space, you know, like they've just given off that energy that's like, oh, I'm so mad at you, but they got a smile on their face, you know, and they're acting all nice. It's just, listen to your gut instinct. If there's anything you're taking away from today, it's your gut instinct. It's fucking amazing, honestly. It's so powerful. Listen to it, okay? I'm not saying you have to. Sometimes we do get a little bit of paranoia and stuff that comes up. That's natural, okay? The attitude is to be curious and compassionate to these gut instinct signals, okay? Curious. Why am I getting this? Rather than just, oh, I'm just overreacting. Opening it up, exploring it. Why am I getting this signal? Maybe opening your eyes a little bit more, looking around, taking a little bit of a critical view of the situation, you know, objective view of the situation. Why might I be getting this signal right now? And then the second part, being compassionate about that gut instinct signal. Thank you, body, for giving me that message. Whether or not it's true, if it's paranoia, if it's gut instinct, whatever one it is, thank you for looking out for me, body. I appreciate that. As opposed to, God, I'm so paranoid, I'm so weak, I'm so blah, whatever, okay? Curious and compassionate. Gut instinct is awesome. 3 things that you need to remember. Okay, here we go. Second last one, psycho face, okay? Just about the whole nonverbal cues thing, you know, they can keep their mouth shut, but you know when that look comes out, what that look means, yeah. And many times in these relationships, the person becomes so conditioned, you know, like maybe it started out with like proper aggressive rowing and stuff like that, or maybe it was just mood swings or something, but then later on in the relationship, all the person has to do is give you a look, and you know exactly what that look means, yeah, and that's all it takes to control you, you know. So people often describe something called like a psycho face, you know, somebody just almost like literally like changes their face, they just don't look like themselves anymore, almost like disconnected, like they literally like dehumanize you. It doesn't look like they're looking at another person, it's just like that like cold look or aggressive look, whatever it is. If somebody has that strange like Jekyll and Hyde face thing going on, if you see that come out, that should be a massive warning sign for you, okay? Okay, and the final one, entitled as fuck. Okay, often people who are perpetrators, abusers, controllers believe that they deserve to have things, you know, like, oh, I just automatically assume that they should be the center of attention, that they should get first pick on something, that they should get some special treatment, that they are more deserving than other people. All of these things, yeah. Many different possible examples of being entitled. Okay, so there we go. Hopefully that didn't take too long. As I said, I just want to recap, you know, this is not about getting you all scared and stuff. This is just me saying, look at this cool, cute little cartoon that I made. Here are some really useful value bombs, knowledge bombs for you to educate that kind of thinking brain part of yourself, so that when your amazing, powerful, super intuitive, like just amazing gut instinct kicks in, you might actually believe that, rather than just putting yourself down, saying I'm overreacting, ignoring it, all that kind of stuff. This exercise is really about validating that gut instinct, so you can say, oh no, actually I learned about that thing, that's a real legitimate thing, so thank you, gut instinct. I'm going to look for the cues, I'm going to be curious, and then I'm also going to be compassionate. Thank you, body, for doing what it takes to save me. I really appreciate it. Even if it's wrong or right, thank you, body, for just looking out for me. Thank you, body. I love this body. Okay, enjoy. Bye.